Yes, yes, try not to laugh. I've had to embrace middle age by getting bloody reading glasses because otherwise everything just looks incredibly blurry. So, notes in comments as to whether it's an improvement in the look or not. I thought I'd just do this quick post because I knew that this was going to be an issue this week when I saw the podcast, and I thought it's going to cause rampant confusion, and I'm just going to answer some of the questions, give my opinion, and also give the science, he said, adjusting his glasses in a scholarly fashion. What I'm talking about is Diary of a CEO and the interview with Professor Tim Spector, who developed the Zoe app. Tim Spector should be staying in his lane because he puts forward so much nonsense and completely, well, fraudulent science that it's unbelievable. And it just confuses people. Because now I'm getting people saying, oh, is it more important that I will look out after my gut microbiome than I'm in a calorie deficit? And you're like, oh my Christ. People like this are just causing confusion. So let's go through it very quickly. What does he have to say? He basically says that the whole model of calories in, calories out is defunct, it's 19th century science, it's out of date, blah, blah, blah. Forget it, ignore it. That is utter rubbish. There's only one dietary intervention, and this is not me talking, this is from the course I'm doing with, a PhD in nutrition, Lane Norton. There's only one thing that has been statistically shown to work, which is being in a calorie deficit. Now, we can argue all day long about the icing on the cake of hormonal optimization or this theory or that theory, but that's the fact. Am I changing my mind about hormonal optimization? No, absolutely not. But what I'm saying is, one thing I have changed my mind about is for Gen Pop, it's not the cornerstone. Okay, when I trained with Charles Poliquin, he was very much geared towards Olympic athletes. So in a way, I kind of went from the top down. I'm giving advice to clients, and sometimes you think to yourself, well, actually, you've got to be completely upfront. Actually, sometimes that advice was too advanced for where they were. Actually, you just want to say, eat less, move more. And we look at that theory now as, oh, it's old science and it's defunct, but it's not. Okay, that's the cornerstone. That's the main theory. Anyway, the next thing is that for him, it's all about gut microbiome. So hold on, I'm just going to put this on the stand so I don't have to hold it. It's all about gut microbiome. That's what it is that will enable you to lose body fat. Exercise doesn't work. Exercise doesn't work in the most haughty way possible. And I was like, yeah, don't mean to be harsh, but looking at you, you are not, you're not lean. I'm pretty sure that, I've got 17-year-old schoolgirls who are currently clients who would easily outlift a grown-ass man who's in his 50s. So yeah, not that doesn't make a coherent argument at all. So he's basically saying that there's no evidence that exercise works. Right, okay, let's go to that first. Because I think that's the one that most people will go, oh no, what's the point of doing all this shit then? An overview of 12 systematic reviews and meta-analyses showed favourable effects of exercise on weight loss and body composition. That is studies of studies. Okay, so that's gold standard. They weed out all the crap, they look at all the major studies, and there are, really, does it take me to explain why that would happen? Okay, well, number one, it increases your total daily energy expenditure. So the amount of calories you're spending in any day is expanding because you're burning more calories in exercise, irrespective of whether it's cardio or weight training, number one. Number two, we know that muscle is more metabolically active and more metabolically demanding on the system. So me sitting here at whatever I am now, Christmas, is 18% to be full disclosure, not happy with that, but I'm still burning off relatively more calories than somebody who's 32% body fat. We know that muscle is much more glycogen, that it creates more glycogen shuttling. So in other words, the energy that you do consume is more likely to go into muscle tissue than it is to just be stored as body fat. We know that that resistance training also improves insulin sensitivity. So think of the parking bays that you've got in a car park. You've got now more parking spaces for energy to dock into. It is just staggering that in this day and age we're even debating that. And that's just off the top of my head. Okay, so cornerstones of fat loss. This isn't my work. This is Dr. Lane Norton's, and it is basically, I think, a very, very thorough evaluation of what works. Number one, cornerstones of fat loss are compliance and adherence. Okay, that to me, that was quite an aha moment. I thought, that's it. I can say to you, well, I want you to go onto this cauliflower diet, and what you do is every third day you have 6 cups of green tea, and if you can adhere to it, brilliant. Then you're good to go. But for a lot of people, where they're struggling, it's because they're trying to ram that square peg into a round hole. Find the restriction that works best for you. That's another quote from him, and I thought that's brilliant. Whether that's keto, carnivore, paleo, intermittent fasting, 8-2, 5-2, 9-21, whatever. Okay, find the restriction that works for you. The next one is calorie deficit. You've got to be in a calorie deficit. It's the first law of thermodynamics. If you're not burning off more calories than you're taking in, you're going to at least maintain or put on fat. The next one is exercise. Obviously, you're increasing your total daily energy expenditure, but on top of that, you're gaining more metabolically active muscle, all the stuff that I've discussed before. Self-monitoring. You're not going to know how you're getting along until you actually monitor what you are doing. So in other words, actually looking at things like body composition or tape measure, or even just how clothes fit. And the one thing I say to clients when they haven't got body fat scales is just, put on an item of clothing that's been really unfavorable to you recently and monitor how that feels on you. Next one is protein and fiber intake. Fiber because it's satiety. That will help with gut microbiome. Protein, because we could go on all day about that, but it improves satiety. If you're going to lose body fat, what do you want to lose? Do you want to lose fat, or do you want to lose lean body mass? Well, obviously fat. So it's much more sparing of muscle tissue. It signals to the body that if you're going to tear anything down out of the structure, tear down fat, not muscle. On top of that, so we've talked about satiety. There's the thermic effect of feeding. So when you eat 100 grams of protein, you're only actually digesting 80. If you're resistance training, then obviously that's going to go up. Protein requirements increase with age. Charles used to say protein is, the word comes from the Greek protein means of first importance. And it also goes towards your immune system. So, there we go. Supplementation is at the top of the tree. So that is where, when you're at a more elite level, you're looking at dialing those things in. Now, that's Lane Norton's approach. I would add to that good sleep quality, okay? Because I don't think that you're going to maintain good... They've done loads of analyses where 5 days of crap sleep of about 5 hours a day resulted in blood sugar levels that look like a pre-diabetic. So good sleep management, because we're also reducing cortisol, we're elevating things like growth hormone, and that whole hormonal cascade that occurs during sleep is so. These things are actually working. Okay, it's not all just about gut microbiome. Stress management is another one. Stress management, if your cortisol levels are up, cortisol is a fat binding hormone. It's going to, if you are in the Serengeti plains trying to escape from a saber-toothed tiger, then your body is not going, I want to be jacked. Your body's going, shit, we've just got to escape. And then we're out into the plains. It might be 3 days before we eat again. So you're storing body fat close to the liver. That's why it goes around the abdominals, the abdominal region. Because your body thinks we might be in starvation mode. So not being in a stressful environment and doing things like yoga, qigong, tai chi, breath work are not a negotiable. They're absolutely essential, okay? And of course, hormonal optimization. So I haven't changed my mind about it, but I do think that a good coach is one who will put his hand up and say, sometimes I went from the triangle from the top down, okay? That is is something that you learn with time. And now with some clients, I would adjust that balance. Okay, so the argument that he's putting forward, and this is the bit that I thought was really where I just wanted to scream at the phone as I was watching, was he says, calories in, calories out. It's such an old theory. We're way past that. Okay, so to be clear, Tim, it's your gut microbiome that are responsible for fat loss. Okay, he never explains in the entire podcast, sorry, let me just adjust this seat, how that mechanism of action works. So having good gut microbiome is going to make you lose fat. Right, I'm fascinated to hear that. Now, I'm not against, please don't misunderstand me, I'm not against having good gut microbiome flora, because it is essential. It will help with digestion. It will help with your neurotransmitter balance. So it will help with mood. And obviously, it can it's good for all the because the gut is the home of the immune system. It will be by default good for the immune system. But this is the key. He's saying that calories in, calories out don't work. So let's use that as a scientific analysis. If the gut microbiome are helping with body composition, they're either it's only two arguments. One, it's somehow retarding fat gain. Okay, it's stopping fat assimilation. It's coming out in your poo. It's coming out in your wee or your sweat. It's somehow just stopping your body gaining fat. Okay, I'm not disputing that. Maybe it does. Or it's metabolizing energy much quicker so that the food's getting absorbed fast and you're digesting it quicker, and less is being carried by way of body fat and more is being stored in lean body mass. And right, okay, so let's say it's one of those. He doesn't expand, but let's say it's one of those. That accepts the calories in, calories out model because one, you're either stopping fat gain by retarding that fat gain because it's calories, or you're enhancing calorie burn through these gut microbiota. So he completely contradicts himself. So, like I said, I agreed with him about the importance of gut microbiome, and I'm sure all my peers would as well. But what I'm saying is his argument is spurious, and it's just making people think, oh, what was it? He says, oh, eat 30 different herbs and seeds, and add curcumin. Whether it is Mike Marler or Poliquin or myself or anybody in the industry, we are all fans of turmeric as an anti-inflammatory. It's an anti-carcinogenic. It's been used in Indian cooking for years, and their rates of arthritis, etc., are really low. But once again, that's health. That's not body composition. And like I said, I'm not being, whatever fat shaming, whatever buzzword it is now. I'm just saying it as looking at Tim Spector. He's not in great shape. Okay, he's not somebody I look at like Lane Norton. He's a beast. You talk to Mike Marler, he's in absolutely phenomenal shape. Always setting goals. Always setting goals for new body composition goals or new performance-based goals. Tim Spector, I'm sorry, he would not last 12 minutes in one of my workouts. So, what else were we going to say? I think that covers a lot of it. Do leave any comments if you watched it and you're kind of like, yeah, but he also said this. I just made some really brief notes, but like I said, it's stuff like that really does my head in because it's really causing confusion. People are really easily waylaid. They'll drift to this side, drift to that side. What about this? What about that? Because we're always, it's that shiny thing syndrome, where we're always looking for the next best solution. So there it is. In a nutshell, what are some of the top tips? Again, very, very quickly. Cornerstones of compliance and adherence. If you can't adhere to it, forget whatever you're doing. It's going to be a waste of time. Calorie deficit, absolutely essential. Whatever you're eating, if you're losing body fat, you're in a calorie deficit by default, okay? Exercise, it's a non-negotiable. Self-monitoring, how do you know how you're doing if you're not monitoring it? Protein and fiber intake, absolutely essential. And obviously I've got different ways of calculating that per lean body mass and gender. Carbs and fat macros are secondary to that. Supplementation, obviously, that also ties in with what I was saying about my own additional stuff like stress management and hormonal optimization and good sleep quality all fall under that umbrella. And let me know. It's a shame that I'm only because I'm not very good at boosting my social media presence, and quite frankly, I'm not really that fussed about it. It's not something that I'm lie awake in bed about, but it does frustrate me because that stuff goes out, and straight away I saw the post and I saw that Steve, what's his name, the guy who does the Diary of a CEO, sort of shaking his head. God, it's so confusing. I bought all these supplements. What a waste of time. And so exercise doesn't work. Well, and I've been going to the gym, and I'm just there going, yeah, you might. You might want to talk to some of the strength coaches out there and see the comparative. Do you know what I mean? Of course, it's going to make an impact. And of course, if we're talking about exercise, what would be my preference? It'd be resistance training. Why? Because when they looked at diets and you come out of that diet phase, you hit your maintenance goals, the people who maintained the best maintained because they were self-monitoring, maintained because they still kept up that high protein intake, and also they were still doing resistance training. Okay, and what they found was also on top of this, which I thought was very interesting, was that you can be a bit more aggressive with your calorie deficit with those people. Okay, So there we have it. That is actually coming up to 15 minutes, crikey. But that is some, evidence-based material, not opinion. So hopefully that is of use. Let me know in comments if there's anything you'd like me to add, and have a great day. Take care. Bye.